So I think that there's this overarching concept of cost that you mentioned, and I definitely want to come back to that because obviously we wouldn't be here if we hadn't solved for that. But I also want to double click on this idea that you have to start making decisions about where your data resides.
Sure. So, from the perspective of where is my data, I think when an enterprise organization goes and offers different storage classes out to their user community, essentially that's an admission of the fact that they can't solve the problem of supporting both high performance and high capacity. So as opposed to trying to solve it, essentially they say, you as a user organization, please go reconcile to these different storage classes. And here, what we found is that in any public cloud service, what you find is that same wide selection of storage offerings being expressed as services that get sold back to either users or to administrators is still different classes of storage. And so the problem definitely hasn't been solved. And we see some just crazy pathologies in our customer environments as they work to resolve this imbalance between performance and capacity. The interesting thing is if you think about that cluster that was built 20 years ago that started it all, and you looked at that same infrastructure today, if you bought it with modern hard drives that have much greater capacity, you'll find that the average performance per bit that customers are deploying today on hard drive-based infrastructure has gotten dramatically worse. And the conversation around storage tiering only becomes more acute. And nobody looks at the problem from just the fundamental level and solving it all together.
To turn the contrast up a little bit more, as you think about, take AI. Talk about what tiering does to inhibit the growth and the success of those projects.
If you're going to build the most accurate model, well, then you need to expose it to the most representative data set. And if you want something that can handle any condition, let's take, for example, a self-driving car, you should show it all the possible scenarios that it will encounter throughout driving down the road. And so play that forward to storage, and you think, okay, well, in order to go and train and build models on top of these large reserves of data, modern processors need to chew through this infrastructure repeatedly as codes get refactored and rethought. And so this space is moving so incredibly quickly. But the one thing that this space doesn't have tolerance for is the latency of a mechanical hard drive. And so what we're finding is that customers are not only rejecting hard drives as the basis for which they implement their training agendas, but they're also refining the definition of what you could think of as an archive.